Hi, I'm Sim,
Hi, I'm Patrick,
and
we're
we're
Wizard
Wizard
Core.
Core, a duo of friends that like to get scared and watch horror movies together,
Yes, today's topic, we are going to be talking about the new Max release of Salem's Lot.
which we just watched on our little home TV.
Yes, and boy, oh boy, do we both have thoughts. Sim especially, because he's caffeined out right now.
I had a lot of coffee
It's
while
like
we're.
it's like 10 p.m. and we're just like, now's the time.
Now's the time to record this and talk about it.
Exactly.
Um, so Salem's Lot was a Stephen King novel of the same name, and then there was two
Previous adaptations.
previous adaptations. I think the first one was like 1979. Don't
Yeah.
quote me on that.
I don't know. You've seen them. I haven't seen the
But
other
yeah, a
ones.
long time ago. So I haven't seen them in a while. But the first one was 1979, and I think it was two parts, and both parts were 3 hours. And then the second adaptation, which I remember more as a kid, had Rob Lowe, Donald Sutherland, Rutger Hauer, and a couple other people.
That's actually a good cast.
Yeah. And it was two parts of 2 hours, so it was 4 hours total. And this is just 2 hours. It's a 2 hour movie.
And spoiler alert, it suffers greatly from just being
And
2
at the
hours.
same time,
It's hilarious.
it's, oh yeah. So I think right off the bat, this movie is good in a way that it doesn't mean to be good.
Yeah,
Well, first off, I would suggest watching it with friends.
Yeah, so before we continue, this is you'll see in the title obviously, but this is a full-on spoiler discussion. I think every movie we talk about will be full-on spoiler discussion because I don't think it'd be.
I think we've covered that before, but yes.
Yeah, but yes, spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alerts. Let's move on. Yeah, definitely watch this movie with friends because if you watch this movie by yourself, you will be so bored.
Yes.
This movie is unabashedly boring with some spikes of greatness in it.
There's just two good scenes.
That's what I mean.
There's two good scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
And we'll get to those. Other than that, it's just funny.
Yeah.
It's like really, I don't know how to even, just little things or just really can it catch you off guard.
Yeah.
And are just so funny.
Yeah.
And we'll also get to those too. But what you were saying about it it's both suffers from the lack of extra explanation and story, and then also is almost too long because it feels 2 hours.
Yeah. I feel like I remember we paused at some point. I was weirdly dead on accurate for where we were at. Every time we would pause it, I'd be like, I feel like it's been like 20 or 40 minutes and we would pause it. And it was like I was almost exactly at like each time marker.
Oh, yeah. So the movie stars Louis Pullman as the titular character.
What else has he been in?
So
I can't remember.
like him from I like him overall. He's been I first saw him in The Bad Times at El Royale, which I thoroughly enjoy that movie.
That movie's great.
That's
He's
the bellboy.
Yeah, he's the bellboy.
That's one of my favorite sleeper hit movies.
Yeah, that movie's great.
I don't even think it was a hit. Just sleeper movies that I think is a terrific watch. Go watch that movie instead.
Yeah, that movie, yeah.
But he was also in Top Gun Maverick, which I
didn't
care about. I know. I mean, I saw it, but it was, I don't know. I feel like everybody and their grandma saw that movie.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, "Oh boy, blockbusters are back and the cinema's back in full tilt." And when that movie came out, holy shit, everybody! That movie was such hype. I don't get it, but you know. Yeah. I'm not a fan of either Top Gun movie.
Yeah.
Just Tom Cruise and jets in Scientology.
Yeah. Yeah. that's getting. I just had a whole thought tangent about the fact that like everybody was like, "Oh, Christopher Nolan's Tenet's gonna bring people back to the movie theaters," and that movie like bombed hard
Was
at the
that
movie.
during like
It was
2020?
during 2020, and everybody's like, even back then, they were like,
Jesus.
"It's gonna make the movie goers come back to the theater," and it totally didn't. And the movie, I never saw it, but everybody said it was like weird and okay.
See, I never got around to watching Tenet. It was just like one
I
of
didn't
those.
either. It just looked kind of like it looked cool, but also like, especially when people started talking about it, I was like, it doesn't seem like it's worth my
Yeah.
time. But we're not here to talk about that movie. We're here to talk
Yeah.
about Salem's Lot. Salem's
Mhm.
Lot opens with what was the actor's name?
Pillow.
Pillow. It opens with Pillow.
Pillow. He was in Game of Thrones. I will butcher his name, but it's like Pilou Abisco, something like that. And
So
he was
Bellboy. It opens
no,
with Bellboy.
no, that's Louis Pullman. It doesn't open with Bellboy.
That's what I was talking about him. It opens.
No.
No, wait, no. You're right.
You're
That's
jumping
right.
too far ahead already. It opens
already.
with Straker contracting two guys to drop off a box at the forgot what the name of the house is, but
It's a mansion at the top of a hill.
who belonged to somebody else before.
And it's called Salem's Lot if it wasn't obvious because it takes place in the real location. I believe it's a real location.
No, it's Jerusalem's Lot.
That's right.
Up
That's
in-
right. It takes place in Jerusalem's Lot, which is a real place in
Nope.
No, okay.
Continue, Patrick.
Okay. Well, the point
With
is
your
it takes
fake
place
news.
It takes place in fucking Massachusetts. Somewhere in New England. It takes place there as most Stephen King stories do. And it opens with those two guys being contracted to deliver a coffin to the mansion at the top of the hill, which looks classically like the mansion from Psycho, because you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It looks like the mansion from Psycho. And it was kind of a good opening scene sequence where like they're delivering it and they get
drop
creeped
it off
out
in the basement.
Yeah.
And they get scared and they run away. And
Yeah.
the vampire pops out. It doesn't get them. They go away.
They run away. The vampire, there's like one shot of like the
Mhm.
vampire coming out of the dark and then it cuts to later.
Yeah, no, but the first scene introduces who's supposed to be the side villain, who's played by Pilou something or other. I forgot his name, but he's in Game of Thrones as I already forgot. Euron Greyjoy. I almost called him Earl Greyjoy because he has like a big bushy mustache. My name is Earl.
My name's Earl Greyjoy. I'm from the Earl Grey family.
I was referencing both My Name is Earl and Game
I was
of
talking about
Thrones.
Earl Grey tea.
You're just ruining my references now.
Yes, I am.
Continue on. That's when we're introduced to Louis.
I keep wanting to call
Pullman's
him
character.
Tim Pool. It's not Tim Pool. Imagine Tim Pool is the main character in this movie.
Oh God,
That'd be a really horrible movie. But we're introduced.
Do the police show up at the end?
Yeah, because of all the
We need
recent
a search and seizure.
This is
These
Russian.
aren't vampires; they're Russians.
Yeah. God, now that would be a great movie.
Oh, that would have been better than this.
That would have been way better than this. But he's like God, my brain.
I forgot the character's name. In this already.
Yeah, he's sitting in his car looking at the mansion.
Yeah.
As he's in the mansion, apparently is at like the town, the edge of town, and the cop comes up. Do you remember this? The cop comes up to him.
I remember
The cop comes up to him and is just like, "What are you doing here, boy?" And he's just like, "Oh, I'm just trying to find a place to live."
This is my favorite thing is everybody keeps calling him a writer. They're like, "What are you, some type of author?"
Yeah, and he's like-
but he has like a pile of book. Like he's
Yeah.
a well-known author outside
Yeah.
of this town. The girl was reading his book. Like people, like he would be well known, and they're
Yeah.
like, "What are you, some type of author?" And he has like a box of books
Yeah. So
with his name and picture on it right next to him. Like,
exactly. So
yes.
So after that, so he drives into town and there's shots like establishing the
He
town.
just meets the sheriff and it's a basic like sheriff meeting. He's like, "Don't cause no trouble in my town."
Yeah,
and he's like, "Yeah,
mhm.
okay." And
So
then
then
he
he-
drives into town.
Then he drives into town and there's shots establishing like the townsfolk, which don't
It doesn't
really,
matter.
it doesn't matter. But
It doesn't matter.
he
Nothing
goes.
matters. There's no good setup.
Why
in
does he
this.
go into that store again with the
He's getting,
person that
like-
becomes the love interest? He's trying to find like a place to live,
Like
right?
a stay, to stay
Yeah, so he walks into this place
while
looking.
he's in town.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He walks. She was working at a real estate
Yeah.
agency place. So
She's
he
a
walks.
secretary.
Yeah. So she's the main who becomes the main love interest. She's literally reading his book, and his portrait is full on the back cover
Not
of the
just
book.
His portrait, like a little picture.
Yeah,
It's like the whole.
It's the full back cover. Yeah.
And his name is on it, and he walks in, and he's like, "So how's the book?" And
Yeah.
she's just like, "I think I'm at the part where the reader decides if she wants to keep reading it or not." And me and Patrick had two different perceptions on this part.
Yeah, do yours
I
first.
thought she knew who he was and was like fucking with him.
Yeah.
But by the end of the scene, I found out that she didn't know who he was, even reading this book that he wrote
Yeah.
with his giant portrait on the back of the fucking book.
And like I caught on to that before you did, and the only because I first when she first said that, I wasn't sure if she knew, but based on how the way the scene was playing out, I was like, she doesn't know. She actually like wasn't joking when she said that. Like she
Yeah.
actually was like trying to be like burr, 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 burr at the guy and like make like small talk. And then there's a moment. What happens? How does she find out that it's actually him?
He asks the guy, the actual real estate agent, asks for his name, and he's like,
Yeah.
Ben. His name's Ben Meadows or something.
Yeah, and like the
And he
camera
goes, Ben Meadows.
and the
and then
camera
he
pans
leaves.
over as the chick looks over and she's like,
And-
"Oh no!"
yeah, and she sees his name is on the book as the
Yeah.
author, and she's like, "Oh, golly, gee whizzikers, you did it again. Oh, shucks." Is literally her reaction to it.
And I have to say, Sim and I agree on this. From like the first, this is actress's first scene. We don't know her name, but we could tell immediately that her acting in this was not going to be good.
It's
It's
yeah.
not. I don't know if I would say it's awful, but it's so. It's. You're like, that's kind of a fitting word to describe. It's bad.
I will say there's literally like two people in this movie that
had good acting, serviceable acting.
I would say serviceable at best
Yeah.
for everybody in this movie, which is Bill Pullman and the guy who plays Matt Burke, I think is the teacher, the math teacher. I think
Yeah.
we're introduced to him in the next scene.
Yeah, because you're right. Because in the next scene, it sets up the thing
With the kid.
kids.
Yeah.
Well, it's all the kids, really.
It's all the kids. And let's
There's
talk
multiple-
about
yeah
some child acting.
Yeah,
Jinx
yeah.
is so bad in this movie. And before
it's
anybody
bad.
says, "Oh, they're kids acting, just take it easy," they get paid more than I will ever get paid in my lifetime for one movie.
Yeah,
So it's on the table. Fuck it. These
Yeah.
kids are terrible.
they're not good.
It's bad.
They
literally sound like they're reading straight from the script, like they have cue cards off screen.
especially the kid with the glasses.
The
that
main
gets beat
kid.
That gets he is the main kid. Yeah,
he's
not
like
good.
reading off camera, like the vampires are here and we have to kill them.
Yeah. So there's like a scene where that kid with the glasses is getting bullied, and that causes what's the older guy's name, the actor's name that you just said?
Well, no, Matt Burke.
Matt
is
Burke, the character.
character.
Matt Burke, who's like a math teacher. He's a
Yeah.
teacher. He sees that he's getting bullied, and he sees that the other teachers aren't doing anything about it. So he's just like, "Well, here we go again." And he goes out there like begrudgingly to like stop.
Yeah.
To stop. So actually, hold on. Important bit, I guess, about this scene, which does set up the fact that this main kid is like, what's the opposite of not the opposite? What's the male version of a Mary Sue? Do you know what I forget what it is? Like it's like a Stanley something. If you know what a Mary Sue is, this is like the male child version of it. He just knows how to do everything, at least
Yeah.
the way it's presented in the movie.
Yeah.
So like he's getting bullied by the kid or by his bully, and then he like pulls like an Uno reverse card on the kid and is like, actually, I can like beat the fuck out of you.
Yeah.
And like holds
And
his
he's
arm
supposed to
down.
be like a nerd
Yeah. And
that's
he,
into like horror creatures and stuff, which isn't established at first.
it's not, yeah, it's not,
It's
it's set up,
established
it's set up after
when
things
it becomes
happen.
relevant to when horror starts happening. He's like, actually, I'm an expert in horror stuff.
And it's very unsatisfying. But the point is that he pins the kid down and holds his arm behind his back and makes him say uncle. And the kid says uncle, but then the main class's kid, he keeps holding him down and eventually lets him go once Burke comes out. And Burke has this moment of like, you know, son, whenever you pin a kid down and make him say uncle, when he says uncle, you let him the fuck go.
Say that like Hank Hill.
You know, wait, hold on. Hold on. This is the premiere of my Hank Hill voice on this podcast. Wait.
Just the way you said it initially, I was like, you got to do that in the Hank Hill voice.
You know,
now.
Bobby, when you're... God damn it, I can't say this without laughing. You know, Bobby, when you pin a kid down with his hand behind his back and you make him say uncle, you let him the fuck go. You don't just hold him down and make him your bitch, okay?
That's not how we do it here in the lot.
We don't do it here. Yeah, that's not how we do this in the lot. Yeah, that's basically how that plays out.
That's exactly what happened.
For the rest of this review, every time Bert comes, it's going to be me. Oh, God, these goddamn vampires.
These vampires.
Peggy, where's the holy water? Where are my steaks?
I need holy water and propane.
Yeah. Peggy, where's my propane gas lighter? I need to light these vampires the fuck up. But okay, so that scene happened. What's happened? What's the scene right after that? We just watch every time we just watch something. You're way better at like the literal plot. It always gets like jumbled up in my brain.
I think after that is when Ben goes to the library and he's like looking through library stuff, and this is where we get exposition librarian.
Oh yeah, so yeah,
so
we learn in this scene that the reason why he's in the library and he's having like a Blade Runner 2049 moment which is whatever. He has a moment where he's like flipping through like old documents and like the old like the big projector screen thing that they had in libraries way back in the day with like newspaper clippings and whatnot. And you learn through exposition through the librarian. And the reason the librarian's getting into this is because love interest and her mom overbearing mom.
Before we say anything
interest.
else, really quickly, I love the mom in this movie.
She's utterly ridiculous and it's great.
So fucking ridiculous in this movie. She is
ridiculous.
And she doesn't, like everybody in this movie, doesn't get any fucking screen time.
No.
They try to do the whole...
They do kind of milk it when she's there, though.
Oh my God.
Especially at the end.
It's so good.
It's great.
I love this.
It's great.
She's the best part of the ending.
Oh, yeah.
We'll
get there.
What they try to do throughout this movie is kind of like what the previous adaptations and what the book does. Is like do the whole townsfolk thing and go about everything and like everybody's lives within the lot itself. But it's such a short runtime that no one gets that a lot. And this is where we were talking about where it kind of like falls short, where like nobody really gets the time needed to like develop as characters.
Yeah, there really
everything's just kind of said in exposition and they're like, my life is like this.
Yeah, there's really at no point in the movie do you feel like there's a main character, but not in a way of like, oh, it's an ensemble cast, which is kind of at a certain point what I felt like they were trying to do, but it doesn't work that way at all.
No.
If you don't get attached really to anybody throughout the entire film.
Because they try to make Ben the main character.
They do, and he should be the main character.
They don't introduce other main characters in the ensemble until an hour into a 2-hour movie.
Yeah. Most of like the main player stuff doesn't really happen until the halfway point in the movie. And the weird part about it is like they it's as if they like tried to spend time setting all this stuff up, but they
Yeah.
skipped so much of what happens in the actual story
Yeah.
that by the time you get there, like it almost doesn't make sense what's
Yeah.
happening.
So before we
But
continue with the plot,
we need to get back to that
no,
library
no, no,
scene
no, no,
though.
no, 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 no. Patrick, shut the fuck up real quick. Before we continue, this first hour does not matter. Nothing happens in this first hour.
It has the
And
funniest moment in the movie though.
the neat kid.
The neat kid, yes. That's
Nothing
one of the
in this
funniest
first
moments.
hour actually fucking matters because it's all like these characters kind of doing their own thing in the town.
Yeah.
While the vampire is kind of doing his own thing in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not connected and nothing is like gets connected till like an hour in. And when I mean connected, I mean like
actually,
like not even like, oh, I can see how this is going to lead into the, I mean just like, oh, there's vampires in the town now and like let's take care of that. I mean, they're just doing bullshit.
Yeah.
And then the vampires doing bullshit, and then somehow they find out there's vampires.
Yeah.
And then the last hour of the movie is like, okay, let's take care of this vampire thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, then now we can continue.
Well, I think like it was the first like big laugh that it got out of us was the neat kid, because there's this scene with the kids that happens after the bully scene. I don't remember.
I thought my first laugh was the exposition librarian.
I said the first big laugh.
Yeah, but
the first laugh was the exposition laugh
because Louis Bullman's character is like right there.
Yeah,
compared, like the mom and the daughter, the love interest daughter, is talking to the librarian, and Louis Bullman is not even like 10 feet away.
Yeah,
and the librarian's like, oh, he's right over there. You want to know his whole backstory?
His parents died. That's why he's back.
And she just like breaks everything down.
Yeah. And then the love interest and the mom. Well, the love interest is more like, oh, cool. The mom's just like, stay the fuck away from my daughter. Like that's her whole character.
Yeah, that's
in this
her
movie.
whole character.
And it winds up being like a strength in a positive way, but also like in a negative way of the movie. But I think right after that is the scene that happens with the kids.
No, so it's the kids. So yeah, it is the neat kids. Yeah, the neat kids. I thought it was gonna be that. So it's the neat kid. Well, no, you explain this.
Well, I don't remember everything the exact way the scene plays out, but basically like the kids, there's another scene that's like explaining like the relationship with the kids. There's 3 kids.
Yeah,
they're
in the room.
They're in the main kid with the glasses room. Then he has like little dioramas of like horror shit in there, which I guess they thought was enough to set up his interest in horror shit, but it totally wasn't. But so they're in the room and they're talking about stuff, and I don't remember the conversation that happens, but there's this very blatantly,
it's not even a conversation. He just goes over there and he's like, my favorite musician.
Oh wait, that's where the Houdini thing's set up. That's where the Houdini thing is set up. That is where
it's set up. He's like, my favorite magician.
Yeah,
Harry Houdini, and he has like a deck of playing cards. It's like a full deck of Houdini cards.
Yeah,
and he holds it up to like one of these other kids.
Yeah,
and this is it. It's so funny.
It's because isn't that when he hold it up to the neat kid? Is that why he says neat?
And then,
so he holds it up to one of the kids that you can tell by how little character development they gave him that he was gonna be like the first death in the movie.
Yeah.
And he has like he literally looks at there's like such an awkward pause where the kid holds up the card and he just looks at it and he goes, neat. And there's like a full like second pause and he slowly pulls up a harmonica and just goes just like one. No, he doesn't even play
and
the harmonica. He plays one note and it just immediately cuts to the next scene.
It's like, and it's like a slow like zoom in too while it's happening. It's like the most awkward.
I made us rewind to it because you were saying something to me and I was like, no, go back.
We have to
neat.
And I think that's when it cuts to
Well, hold on. I already thought of something. Something we didn't talk about that's also been set up somewhere is the familiar character to the
Oh yeah, he's set
vampire.
up in town.
Yeah, he
He bought it.
exists. He has a he recently
It's
set himself
literally
up.
said in the office. He's like,
Yeah,
"Oh yeah, that man. He lives across. He
he has
bought one of the buildings.
he has an antique
He
store,
has an antique
and
store, and he bought the house."
and he immediately starts acting creepy and shit. Like his whole, anyways.
Yeah.
But so yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, but I forget. Oh god, it's so interchangeable. It doesn't fucking matter. This whole movie doesn't matter.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
None of this first half matters at all.
No, we have to talk.
So I'm
about
just
it,
gonna
though.
go with this scene first. So then, Ben and love interest girl, are at the drive. They go to the drive.
Oh yeah,
Which sets up for one of the only good scenes later on.
yeah, and it's yet another exposition dump.
Oh yeah,
That was the first scene where it really started. I mean, like obviously there was librarian scene, but then it was this scene where it's like, are they just gonna do this the whole movie? And they totally do.
They sit on top of
they sit near the projector,
and they're just talking, and then love interest girl says her whole backstory to Ben / Lewis Pullman,
and is asking him questions in a very expository way.
Just like, oh, I want to be a real estate. I'm just a secretary, so I can do it, and I want to get out of this town and not live with my mother, and she doesn't like you because she thinks we're gonna run away together, and she just breaks the whole thing down.
Yeah,
and you're like, okay,
in a way that was totally not interesting. It was literally
not
like
really just that interesting. It's like, is that what you say to people?
Exactly.
On the first,
I mean, it
first,
was
like date.
It was literally just exposition.
Yeah.
That was what I was just like, is this whole movie just gonna be shit like this?
Yeah, you go to a restaurant with your first date, but like, my mom hates you because she thinks we're gonna run away together.
Yeah, exactly. But isn't right. So they have that dumbass scene, and then
right after that,
then that's when the kids
are walking.
A couple of the kids
home.
are walking home through the forest.
The two brothers.
Yeah, it's the two brothers
that
and
were
then,
at the main kid's house, and they're walking down the road, and then Stryker, Earl
forgot.
Greyjoy.
Wait. Before the scene happened with the two talking, Earl Greyjoy shows up in like a 1920s car and has like a creepy scene with the two brothers.
This all takes place in 1975, by the way.
Yeah, but he shows up in like an old ass car.
Yeah, he looks like he's dressed like
he's from that era.
Yeah,
but he basically shows up in his car and tries
antique store. I guess that makes sense.
It makes sense, but it's anyways. But he shows up and like tries. He's like, get in the car.
It's like the most creepy. Like. Not the. We always circle it back to pedophiles somehow. I don't understand.
It came off that way.
It came off so pedophile. He's just like, "Hey kids," he's like, "You taking a walk?"
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, "Why don't you get in my car?"
And thankfully, I liked how the kid was like,
"No," and he doesn't say anything back. He just stares at him
and smiles creepily.
And then they walk off, and he just continues to stare at him. It's so awkward. Because the shot goes on too long, too. Like, I think they're trying to, like, instill a sense of fear, but it's more, like, awkward.
Yeah, it's just...
He's just, like, staring at him, and it holds for, like, way longer than it should. Long.
The editing in this movie makes things simultaneously boring. It's, like, boring and also quickly cut, and there's, like, shit like missing from the story because of the way they edited this together.
They definitely shot
more.
Me and Patrick discussed this in like the previous iterations. I think that they had shot enough for like a 2-part miniseries, basically, like the other ones.
Yeah.
And then just cut everything. I bet you somewhere out there's like a 4-hour cut of this movie.
It probably would have been good, honestly.
Hopefully never sees the light of day. No, it won't.
Actually, you're right. Actually, it wouldn't be good because so much of the acting in this movie is already shit.
It would not.
It wouldn't have saved it. Yeah, you're right. But the point is, so that scene with when he tries to pick them up, and then the drive-through scene happens, and then it cuts to them in the forest walking home.
And then they're walking home in the forest, and then it's like this cool silhouette shot, and then he sneaks up on the one kid like the
Earl
Hamburglar.
Greyjoy,
Yeah,
yeah. He
Earl.
sneaks up on like the youngest brother.
Yeah, so
He
Earl.
sneaks up on Neat Kid.
Yeah, so Earl sneaks up on Neat Kid like the Hamburglar and fucking grabs his
Yeah,
ass.
he
No, he
does.
literally like
He looks
creeps.
like him
He
too.
like creeps
He
up
has
on.
like the hat
Dude,
and
it's like a
everything too.
cartoon how he
Yeah.
creeps up on him and he
Yeah,
just snags
he
him.
literally just like grabs him
Yeah,
too.
and stuffs him in a sack as you do. Takes him back to the mansion and then feeds him to the vampire.
Yes, and then this coming back to what I was talking about with the editing, it like jumps forward like a whole week.
Oh yeah, it just cuts
And you
to a
don't
week later.
and it fucking sucks because you don't get any of like I said this while we were watching. I'm like, this should have felt more like the movie Prisoners, but with vampires, because
Yeah.
you should have had a whole
So,
like why
yeah.
did we skip the week of the
Yeah.
like not getting to know the family
not
and shit?
just that. So it cuts to a week later, and so much has happened in this week that you're just told happened in this week. They
Yeah.
had a search party for this kid. They're stopping the search party. No one in the town trusts or likes Ben because he's a new guy in town. He's the writer.
Yeah.
He's banging out his love interest. They've already fallen in love.
Yeah.
And are now dating /
Whatever.
having sex.
It's like a it's like a situation ship,
Yeah.
or like a friends
And
with
then
benefits
Matt then meets Ben when they're getting off
Yeah.
the train. He was like, "I'm a math teacher." And he's like, "Maybe you could." Oh no, you do it now.
thing. Wait, what is it? Hold on. What does he say
goes,
to him?
He goes, he's like, "I'm a math teacher." He's like, "Maybe you can drop by with the kid. Maybe we'll save it for something funnier." But
Yeah, I can't remember what he says.
he just basically tells him who he is, and then they're
Yeah.
like getting together.
I'm a math teacher. Everybody hates you.
Yeah,
That's
basically.
basically what he says.
Yeah. He's like, everybody in the town has a crush on
Love interest.
love interest
Everybody in town has a crush on love interest.
and propane.
And propane accessories. But yeah, so they're at like the reason they're all together too is because they did like they were talking again, exposition dump. Like they're like, I think the sheriff from earlier, the sheriff is like calling off the search party, and like the reason they're all together because it's like the last night that like the family and everybody's like going to be searching for this kid that's gone missing. And how did they ever find him?
No, they
No,
don't
this was
find him.
okay.
So this
Late,
is-
yeah, I've got to mix
so
up
this
because
is-
of okay.
So I don't know. More bullshit happens. So this is when things. We're about like 40 minutes into this bitch.
Yeah,
45 minutes into this.
this is
movie.
finally when things kind of start to become
happening.
interesting.
Yeah,
because this
okay.
is when the scene happens with the brother of the neat kid who's still alive.
Yes.
He hears his harmonica, which
Oh.
shouldn't be funny, but it is because of how that harmonica
that's
was
another
used.
thing. This movie has so many fucking funny sound effects.
Yeah, it has a lot of funny sound effects.
Like the way people scream.
Yeah,
It's almost like they just didn't give a shit.
They
did
really
everything on the first take and just thought, oh yeah, that's good enough.
the SFX artist on this was just like, fuck it. We'll
like
doing it live.
days of work.
Oh
and
yeah.
then just didn't do. He did everything in like 12 hours.
Yeah, the point there, I don't want to stay on this scene. The point is there's a scene where he gets lured out by like the harmonica, the brother, and he goes out there and is like, "Mrr." He's like, oh, his name's Ralphie. I remember that. The younger brother's name is Ralphie. He's like, Ralphie, and there's stupid creepy shit happens that's not important.
Nothing in
And the
this
vampire gets him.
was actually creepy or scary.
No, it wasn't.
way.
It was so that was like the most predictable horror scene in that whole movie.
But it just bites him, and he goes back in the house.
It doesn't kill him like it killed.
And then the
brother.
mom takes him to the hospital, where we're introduced to our other main character, who's the doctor chick.
Yeah,
And this is about, again,
almost halfway through the movie.
We're being introduced to this other main character who plays a pretty big part in the last hour of this movie.
Yeah, like halfway
through the movie. Kid.
But she basically says that like she looks at him and is like, oh, he has like a it's apparently, I don't know what the disease is, but it's a real disease. And she's like, he has like it's essentially like an iron deficiency, is what she thinks it
Yeah.
is, because his
The
blood, he
yeah.
has like 40% of what like he should have, basically. And then he's in the hospital and he's like hooked up. She was saying that like even the blood transfusions aren't working, so he's hooked up to like a blood bag basically because his blood is being transfused. And so the mom is also there, and
and he says he's thirsty.
yeah,
So the mom
he
goes
wakes
out to
up,
get
yeah,
water, and he
yeah.
sees the blood bag, and he pulls it down, and
He like claws it down and like
Yeah.
just starts literally like
sucking on that bitch like a titty.
okay, better. Yes. Yes. Okay, yes. That is basically what happens.
And then the
But that
mom,
moment was funny too because
well,
okay, well, explain it.
So the mom comes back in, and she sees the son covered in blood after sucking
the blood bag dry.
yeah, and then he dies and he falls on the bed. But the way he falls back on the bed,
it's so quick.
It's so
just
quick,
like,
and it's like the way he looks is like the way someone looks going into a food coma.
Exactly. Yeah.
After they ate like way more than they should have, rather than somebody dying.
Yeah. There was a cool shot before that shot happened though with the mom that you were talking about.
The like kind of
it was like classic
zoom.
Yeah, well it wasn't, it was like a push in, and like she was like only like her face was like underlit all of a sudden, like a classic horror movie.
When she screamed.
Yeah, that was good.
That was cool.
There's a couple like actually good shots in this movie that are cool and like well done. And they're like, we'll get to them though.
And
there's
then
more.
We get introduced. So then they have a funeral for the son.
And then in that same scene, it's introduced the grave digger guy.
The grave digger and the priest.
Oh yeah, the
priest introduced earlier in the. He's like in prison. He's in the
jailhouse. There's a whole scene where it's established that the priest is an alcoholic and he gets released.
He's an alcoholic and he puts himself in jail and he talks to the
sheriff.
The sheriff, and the sheriff's a useless character, and the priest ultimately is a useless character too.
Yeah, which sucks because he was set up like he was gonna have a good payoff, and he totally doesn't.
He has no payoff. And he's like, the sheriff and the priest have a conversation, and he's like, for bad people to triumph, good men have to stand by and do nothing.
Oh, yeah, so I remember you commented that was like a good line.
No, I didn't.
Wait, no, no, that was later. That was later.
And then you're like, you said, he's like, this dialogue is killing me.
yeah. That's
the
right.
sheriff's like, you see any good men in this town?
Yeah, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, you're like, this dialogue is killing me.
Yeah, so then it cuts. I think it cuts to the.
It cuts to the funeral
scene. Who is the gravedigger guy talking to? He talks to someone.
The priest.
Oh, he is talking to the priest.
Yeah,
okay.
And the priest gives him whiskey for some fucking reason.
Oh yeah, and then there's like a weird. Okay, so like the gravedigger guy is set up, and he like there's that right. It was the priest because like there's like a weird, interesting like match cut. Like I thought it was well done, but it didn't make any sense for it to happen.
No, I don't.
It was cool in concept, okay, but it didn't work.
I don't know how I feel about it.
So, okay, the point is, the match that I'm talking about, the priest is like all somber and shit, and there's like a close-up shot of him opening his Bible.
The more I think it's just fucking stupid, honestly.
It's stupid in the context, because he opens his Bible.
No,
and
it's just stupid in the, what purpose? I don't
know. The point is, he opens his Bible, and it match cuts to the guy, the gravedigger, like opening his PB&J sandwich for no reason, and then it cuts to him. Again, talking about food comas, he eats his PB&J sandwich, and he's like sitting on a tree as the funeral's happening, and he falls asleep, and he wakes up hours later.
Yeah.
And he wakes up, and he's like, oh fuck, gotta get digging.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, I forgot to put the dirt on the dead kid's casket.
Yeah, so he starts putting the dirt on the casket, and then he starts hearing the voice, like the kid's voice saying to let him out from the casket. So he jumps down into the grave and opens the casket, and the kid's like has his eyes closed and is like dead, quote unquote.
He's like, oh, I'm losing it.
Yeah, so then he gets out, and then
he starts digging again.
He starts digging again.
He doesn't think anything of it.
And then it cuts to like
the kid
back
popping out.
It cuts to the kid. His head is that was funny,
dude. That was fucking hilarious.
Hey, the kid like pops out
there's
of
no
the thing for a second.
I said they should have just cut that shot, and because then right after that one, he walks to it and the casket's open. I thought that would have been way better tension.
It would have been,
but they show the kid's
shot it was like
head.
out of order.
Yeah,
in the edit.
they shot the kid's head. That sounded wrong.
No, they did not put a bullet through his brain.
But
the camera shot.
The kid is like popping out of the grave, but they cut it right as his like head's popping out, and it looks like a little whack-a-mole thing. It's like,
yeah, it totally does.
And then, which is the exact same sound effect which happens when the dude screams, because he walks over to the empty and he sees the casket's open and he turns around.
And the kid's not in it.
And the kid flies at him to bite him, and the guy. The series of shots of him getting
the
tackled.
editing's just fucked up in this scene.
Tackled into the grave. And then his scream, he's like, oh!
Yeah.
And the kid's like, blah!
Yeah.
That's literally, I think that's almost...
literally what happens.
The sound effects that were made.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that was the effort that they put into that.
So then, isn't it like right out? So the point is like, you think that he like, the kid killed him at first. But doesn't it immediately cut to, was it Burke?
No, something else happens.
Something else happens. It doesn't fucking matter. It's not as interesting. The point is that it cut later, not very long afterwards. It cuts to Burke, the math teacher,
and he's
in a bar, and like I don't remember why he's there. It doesn't matter. He's there, and
he's a math teacher.
Yeah. Enough said. He's a math teacher. He's at a bar. He looks over and like. There's like a character in shadow, and it's very clearly the gravedigger guy. And he goes, "What?"
I just remembered no, continue.
So he goes over to the gravedigger guy, and he's in shadow, and it like that. I actually thought it was kind of well shot. This like scene, like the colors in it worked. It was very like noir, like neo noir. Because
he's like, "What happened?" He's like, "What happened?" He's like, "I was digging a grave, and I don't remember what happened." And he's like, "Oh, you look sick."
Yeah, and he basically invites him over to his place because.
But during the conversation, the kid my brain just shut down.
I could tell. The Dake.
Diggs.
Diggs.
Diggs. The gravedigger.
Gravedigger. Sorry, I had to say it.
Zones out at one point, and he's just like,
yeah.
It's like it's supposed to be creepy, but
and
again,
it's not. It's just weird.
It's just so funny.
Yeah,
because he's just like I can't fit, but he's just making a noise. He's like, yeah, like the corner of the bar, and the teacher's just looking at him like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah,
what the hell?
That boy ain't right. That boy ain't right.
That boy just ain't right. And then then he takes him back to his place, and the cut. That's such an awkward.
Which cut?
It cuts to the shot of him standing over him, sitting on the bed, and it looks like. The opening to a porno.
It looks like they just, even said it. It looked like they just got done having sex, and the gravedigger guy is like, thanks.
Yeah, he's like, thanks. I feel a lot better now.
He literally comes off that way.
And he's like, okay. He's like, take these pills.
Yeah, and that's right, because then Burke sees that he has a bite on his neck, and for some reason that I did not understand, Burke gets like creeped out and like begins to like piece together what might be happening, and he very, very slowly closes the window to the room they're in.
Yeah,
which I didn't understand. This movie had some like window fetish or something like that, because there's so many. You laugh.
No,
you know what I
just
mean,
how
right?
you describe it as a window fetish.
There's so many scenes where they're like windows.
Was it windows?
Yeah, but so. I mean, this comes back into play in the same fucking scene, because he closes the window.
Oh yeah, when he goes out and he's like contemplating, he
goes out
starts smoking his pipe,
and he's contemplating what the fuck is happening.
And he's just like, nervously walking around the room,
and he hears like
and I was just
rustling
voicing over. He's like, "What the hell?" He's like, "He had 2 bites on it. He had 2 bite marks on his neck.
and he
There's no snakes out in."
and he hears like rustling coming from upstairs, and for some reason he decides to go outside. And he looks over. This never made any sense.
Yeah.
This was never
confused.
explained.
If anybody else listening to this has watched this movie, and if we missed something,
yeah, I know. Please comment below.
This scene made
no sense.
No fucking sense.
Because he walks out and he looks over and he sees the gravedigger guy move from the lower story bedroom to the top story bedroom through the open window upstairs.
Yeah.
But the way they shot it, you just see literally just his feet fly through the window into the next room.
His feet, and then he's immediately like, vampires.
Yeah, immediately. And then he goes over to main character and love interest, where like the main character's staying in this like bed and breakfast, essentially.
And this is when you find out that they're already banging.
Yeah.
Then the
there was the
owner lady.
The owner was like, in the beginning, she was like, "Don't have any, like, no guests. That's like, you can't have guests."
I didn't even remember that.
No, yeah, she had a whole.
She knocks on the door,
Yeah.
and then he's like, Matt's here to see you," and
Yeah.
And then the love interest chick's behind the door with like just like a blanket wrapped around her, and it's like, oh, obviously.
Yeah, and she says something like, "Hi, Eva," or something like the love interest says that to the owner lady. But so the point is, Matt's there,
and this comes
this also made no sense.
This comes to my favorite thing.
This is like the most blatant error in the movie.
So he meets up with Matt at the bottom of the stairs at his apartment. Ben does.
Yeah.
And Matt's immediately like, "Do you have a cross or like a
holy water
or holy water?"
Like,
and he's just like, "What for?" He's like, "I can't explain." "Well, I'll explain when we get there."
And then it cuts to them back at his house, and he starts
on the
explaining
front lawn explaining.
But we realized, like, as soon as it happened, we were like, why didn't you have this conversation with them on the car ride over?
Yeah, like in the car.
Because you were saying like that must have been the most fucking awkward car ride.
He's just like they're just all sitting in silence, and he's like, can't talk about it right now.
Yeah, you gotta wait, gotta get to my front
lawn.
Gotta
wait, I gotta point out the window. He's like, "What window? The window the guy went in." "What guy?" He's like, "I've already said too much."
Yeah, exactly. He obligatorily waits till they get to his front lawn. And also this, okay, wait, I don't want to get ahead of myself. They go in and they go upstairs.
Oh, he does point out the window.
He does.
He's like, he went up that window.
No, he points the window up, but they go inside and they go up.
But I'm like, to finish that joke.
Oh, yeah.
It's like there was no point for that scene to like, he's like, "There's no time to explain."
Okay.
And it's like, what did you do in between getting this stuff, taking the drive back over, and then just getting on your front lawn? He's like, "The front lawn is the discussion area."
Yeah, no discussions outside of my lawn.
Outside of the lawn is a no-go.
Because this whole little sequence where he goes and gets them, and we'll talk about it in a second, like, hold on, I'm gonna get there. But like, even when they go up there, there's literal like writing errors in this whole little, like, here specifically in the movie. There's like literal errors going on because so they go upstairs and the power is off, which they don't set up at all why his power is off, and they don't even like make that like known, because what happens is, okay, hold on, hold on, guys. This whole sequence doesn't make any fucking sense. So they go upstairs, and the guy who yeeted himself through the top window is sitting dead. He's dead now. And there was a cool shot because his hand like falls to the ground dead.
That's at the end of all of this. Oh no. This is during all of this.
It's during all this because they basically, I know, man. They basically are like, "We need to get the doctor in here," and then they do like a cool like time jump where like they like the camera moves down under the bed and they see his hand, and they like had left the room, and it moves back up to
No,
like
then you see another like pair of feet, and then it moves back up,
and
then
like they're all
they
there.
called the doctor and the sheriff and stuff, and they're all there now. So it's like a time jump, like one shot almost sort of thing.
It was well done. But so then the doctor's there. They have a whole conversation. Bert is like vampires, and then like everybody leaves. That's essentially what happens.
Yeah,
nobody believes them.
the lights come back on.
Yeah, the lights come back on for no.
And
they came
like,
back on in the same way they went off for no reason.
Yeah.
Like I want to hold on this. That like perplexed me the most because we both looked at each other and we were like, did they set up at all that the power went off?
Paused the movie.
Yeah, we paused it. And we were.
Did we miss something here? What is going on?
Because like we were like paying attention to what was going on, and we were like,
and then what was the point of him leaving the one window to go in the other window for Bert to see? Because we saw his feet go in, but
this scene
nothing made sense.
This whole sequence
made no sense.
It made literally no sense.
Why is the front lawn the discussion area?
Why is a man jumping through windows? Why is I understand. Why is the power off? Why does it come back on? Like it didn't make any sense. But the point is that like, isn't it like directly afterwards that like one of the only good scenes in the movie happens?
I think something else happens.
I don't even care to talk about it. Let's skip to the good shit.
Let's skip to the good scenes. So the guy's dead, so they take him to the morgue, but I think something happens with Ben and the chick, and they're like figuring something out because Burke mentioned vampires because he just knows it's vampires because they read Dracula. I think that's literally what it came down to.
They never explain really how how Burke understands the vampire shit. That's never really explained.
Yeah, other than he's just like vampires.
Exactly. But finally, the only good scene, one of two good scenes.
Oh no, because this happens before this scene because we
it happens.
Light up is when the one brother goes to visit the glasses kids in the window, which was hilarious.
Oh yeah, we need to talk about that. Yeah,
because the cross lit up in that one, and then we were wondering why the cross didn't light up later.
Oh yeah, okay,
which led to the cool scene.
Okay. So after the scene that makes no sense happens, then it cuts to the glasses kid and the kid that died that they had the funeral for that got the gravedigger guy.
And this
he's a vampire now and he's floating outside the window and it doesn't really look that good.
A recreation of one of the scariest scenes from the original adaptation. The original adaptation.
Yeah, it's not
the very
scary.
First one.
It's not scary. In this movie,
one
it's
of the
not
scariest
scary.
things.
It's really not scary.
It's fucking hilarious.
Because he like, first of all, the vampire designs in this whole movie are like very mid.
Yes.
Very, very mid.
Very mid.
Very cool. We can't go fucking podcast episode without going very cool.
Very cool. RLM, baby.
Yeah. But so the point is that the glasses kid like lets in the other kid and he like floats through the window. And then the kid tries.
He's clearly on wires.
Very, very clearly on wires.
He's literally
moving
awkwardly.
He's like dangling.
I'm a vampire. Please don't drop me.
Yeah, exactly. And then so he starts like attacking Glasses Kid, and Glasses Kid, it was technically set up earlier.
Yeah.
He had his little like diorama thing of like a graveyard, and there's a cross. And the closer the vampire kid gets to the cross starts glowing.
Which I'm now realizing in retrospect doesn't make sense because they had to bless the homemade cross later, but that cross wasn't blessed.
Yeah, you're right. Wow. Okay. Yeah. God, this movie fucking sucks. Yes, you're right, but the point is that
the cross lights up. When the crosses get around vampires, they light up.
Yeah, they literally light up. It's literally like,
which is kind of cool. Actually,
it was a cool idea. The effect is cool.
And then so the kid gets hypnotized.
He sees the He sees that the cross glasses kid sees that the cross is lighting up and grabs it, and the sound effect of him like hitting the vampire kid in the face is hilarious. But he hits the kid in the face with the cross, and it like burns his face, and he's like, "Rah!" And like literally
Once
like
again,
he literally like backs out of
the kid floats so funny at the window too. Again, the whole like wiring system, because it looks like
It literally looks like he's being hung by wires.
yeah. So his like neck is like perched out, and it looks like the back of his suit
you can see like the
is
weight
like hanging upwards.
You can see like the weight distribution that is like improperly
like
holding him.
The back of his
shirt.
back, the back of his shirt is higher than where his and his neck is like going
hunched
forward,
over a little bit.
Yeah, he's like hunched over.
Yeah,
like he's trying to balance himself.
Yeah, because he is.
Yeah, and it's so funny. So it looks hilarious.
It does. But so that kid flies out of the window, and this is when they set up that this kid is like that the glasses kid is like the Mary Sue of this movie, because then
he immediately knows everything.
Yeah, because it was
starts reading through these vampire comics.
They set up after it. So okay, when he's battling quote unquote his old friend that became a vampire, he does shit that like implies that like he understands how to fight vampires, but it's not set up earlier. It's set up after it happens.
Yeah,
and he has a whole little montage
Barlow.
Sequence.
He's like, Barlow has a plan. And so
well, but that doesn't make any fucking sense. It's not set up.
He doesn't know who the fuck Barlow is.
No, not at all.
But that's why he knew, like, he's like, Barlow, and then he's like, Stryker must be Barlow's familiar. He, like, writes all of this down immediately. This is, like, immediately he knows everything.
He's having this little montage sequence.
He's like reads all these
after he sends his friend flying out the window.
Yeah, he's like vampires.
Where he's under his bed sheet with like a Nosferatu comic or some shit like that, and is literally writing down in a notebook like what you're just saying. Like I have the key to the code, guys.
Yeah.
Like I know everything that's going on.
He's like Barlow's the main vampire. Stryker must be his familiar. He's like the vampires stake through your heart, garlic. He like breaks everything down, just like from this one like
moment,
and it's never
explained
or set up that he's this type of nerd. Really,
yeah. Again, it's set up. All of it is set up literally after it happens.
Yeah,
and it's so like unsatisfying and like it doesn't make sense why you would do it that way. Anyways, what happens after this scene?
The only good one of two good sequences in this entire movie.
So it cuts back after this to Burke, the math teacher character, and he's like in his home by himself, and Gravedigger guy shows
back up.
Wait, does he come back from
the morgue?
Okay, he comes back from the morgue, and then the glowing cross shit comes back into play,
and then he puts it up
in a really cool way. Actually,
Yeah,
this whole sequence actually worked.
Yeah,
it like made sense.
Yeah, so he
set
puts
up
it
like
up,
lore stuff,
and then it shoots back Gravedigger kid against the wall, and it's like really pushing him against the wall, and he like slides across the wall back into the hallway.
But the way they did it, and it was this was really well executed, actually. Like so he like
it looks like it was done all practically.
It had to have been, because the way that the Gravedigger vampire guy, he like falls against the wall as if he's like literally like gravity wise, like as if like the whole house is inverted.
Yeah.
He falls against the wall, and he's like trying to get away from the cross, and he falls through the doorway as if like you fell like down.
Yeah.
But like the guy is still standing there like normal and shit.
And it's like a wide shot showing both of them. It looks cool.
It looked great.
And then he
starts walking through the house with the glowing cross, and it was clearly like a practical
and everything else is dark, so it's kind of like
only being lit by him.
The only light source is the glowing cross.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
I thought was a really cool
sequence,
because it kind of just follows him for a second. It doesn't like cut or anything. It's like a third person.
You follow him through the
and then he goes and shuts the window.
Yes, the window fetish.
And then he gets attacked again.
Yeah.
And then it falls down the stairs.
And then
he finds another cross.
Yeah. Oh, this guy had the same exact fucking cross everywhere in his home.
Yes.
I remember. I noticed that. I was like, he was like,
because the other cross, when he
here's
falls down the stairs, the
it's
other
still
cross
upstairs,
is still
and the
up.
guy's shadow's being lit by that same cross.
Yeah,
And then he goes downstairs, and there's
And
the
he has
exact same
another-
fucking cross downstairs,
and
he picks it up.
And then he holds it, and it's glowing, and he says, "I revoke your invitation," and the vampire flies out the fucking door.
He gets like sucked out of the house.
He gets sucked out of the door.
And that was cool. That like made sense. I was like, oh, that was really clever of him to do in that moment. Because
that's the end of the one good sequence.
Because that, and you know why it's good? Because that was actually set up earlier. Because he technically did invite him into his home, but he was in the process of becoming a vampire. So when he invited him, he technically was a vampire already.
Yeah.
So when he revokes his invitation, it makes fucking sense.
Yeah.
It's one of the only times in this movie where something makes any fucking sense, and it actually worked really well.
There's so many times nothing makes sense in this movie.
This is one of the only times anything makes sense in this movie.
And it's one of two good sequences in this movie that was actually really cool, practical wise, shot well.
It was shot well, like,
and just
there was actual like tension in the scene.
Yeah, and it actually felt like somebody thought.
It felt like somebody was actually like, I actually cared. I actually cared for a second that somebody was in danger.
Yeah, and for like, it felt like the director kind of like came to life for a second.
Yeah, for like a second.
He's like, oh, wait a minute.
Oh, wait a minute. I need to. I don't know. I can't think of a fucking joke right now. I was gonna say it doesn't make any sense, but like, let's get the propane in here, kind of thing. It doesn't make any sense, but yeah, like the director had like a little
he took
moment on the heart monitor.
No, he took a whippet of cool
fucking
cool,
cocaine.
No, yeah, he just. Dude, that was the day on set. He did some hard drugs and decided to go full Monty.
Yeah, and it actually worked. Like for that sequence, it worked. Man, this movie's like already jumbled in my brain. What happens after?
Is when they get the gang back together. But for right now, we will take a break and we will get back to you.
Yes, we shall. We shall see you momentarily. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome.
We're going to power our way through this last half of this movie because so much bullshit happens that
we're about halfway through the movie.
Yeah, we just need to start just power through it.
And so
we left off with Burke.
Okay, so right after Burke casts the guy out of his house, is when Ben love interest show up, and then the doctor shows up to the house, and this is when the ensemble finally kicks in.
Halfway through the movie.
Halfway through the movie is finally when we're like, okay, here's the vampire stuff now.
Yeah.
Here's like the real, like, oh, the town's in danger. Because the doctor reveals that the mom of the two sons is dead.
Yeah, she dies off screen.
She got killed off screen, most likely by the two sons. And they're talking about digging up the grave of which that would have been so much easier if they just dug up the kid's grave, which wasn't even finished burying.
No.
Did someone go and finish that? They never cleared that up.
Explained it. So basically Burke, the entire scene comes down to Burke being like, it's fucking vampires.
Oh yeah.
And so they make the conclusion that they're going to, they all agree, at least it seems like they all agree that they're going to go to the morgue to look at the now dead mom's body.
Yeah.
But what happens is everybody but Burke goes to the morgue, and Burke decides to be a little PI for a minute.
It cuts to Burke sitting on
like a street corner. Yeah.
And then he looks at the house and he's like, I'm going to go to the house instead.
But that's also where it sets up where...
and like during this point too, the kid is going up to the house because he like gets all his stuff and he's like, I'm going to go kill Barlow on my own. Yeah. And so he adventures up to the house.
Well, wait. Right before that happens, it sets up the little dancing sequence between... What's the familiar character's name? Stryker? Earl Greyjoy. Earl Greyjoy and the mom of love interest are like dancing in the antique shore, and Burke sees that.
Like a 2-second shot.
And right after that, Burke decides to go up to the house, and at the same time, Glass's kid decides, because of the shit that happened when he encountered his friend that's a vampire, he has his little moment and also decides to go up to the house.
And
So then Burke and Glass's kid meet up unintentionally at the same time at the house, and they meet up there because they're going to try and kill Barlow, or at least that's what Glass's kid is trying to do. So they go into the basement.
What is Burke trying to do there in the first
I don't
place?
remember. It doesn't matter. The point is I don't care. The point is,
you're like, I just want to get through this.
Yeah, because it's so hard to explain.
Deflated.
It's so hard to explain.
Energy explains everything. You're just like,
it's so boring.
Okay, guys. It's not even entertaining to talk about.
It's not, because they go into the basement.
I think it's hilarious.
No, it is hilarious.
But because I mean, I called it immediately. I was like, because they get locked in the basement
by Stryker.
Because he's back for some reason. And Barlow's in the basement with him. And he gets out of his coffin, and Burke helps him up.
There's no stairs to the basement, so Burke helps him up, and then Burke gets killed, or he doesn't get killed. He gets
bit.
He gets bit and turned into a vampire, and Stryker he kidnaps Glass's kid and ties him up and hangs him upside down in a room for like no reason. Mm-hmm. And then it's set up. It's not even done in a cool way, because there was the Harry Houdini shit that was set up earlier.
You're jumping ahead, because that's when it cuts back to the morgue is after.
Oh, yeah, we gotta talk about that. I forgot about that. So after Glass's kid gets kidnapped and tied up, they cut to the shit with the morgue, and they're in there with the dead mom character, and that led to one of the biggest laughs you had in the whole movie is when that was the biggest laugh from you from the whole movie.
It was fucking hilarious.
So this is only frankly there's no way around it. The doctor character is black.
It's a black lady.
It's a black woman, and her reaction
to finding out it's a vampire is
she literally just goes, "Oh hell!" And you like died laughing when that happened.
Oh god, it was so funny.
It was like, but she's
so composed up until that point, and then like, I'm a doctor. I know what I'm talking about. There's no such thing as vampires. And the vampire just like sits up, and she's like, "Oh hell no!"
Yeah. So then the vampire gets up, and there's a little main character dude and love interest are also there, and there's a little fight that happens, which involves doctor character getting bit, and then they run a stake through the heart of the mom, and she gets turned.
They don't.
Oh wait, that's right.
No,
the
they just put the cross on her back. They have and she disappears.
Yeah, she gets turned to like dust for no reason.
She disappears.
Yeah, Oh, that's right. They makeshift a cross out of those like tongue depressor things.
Oh yeah, this whole sequence, it's like played off like it's supposed to be intense,
and it's really not.
But it plays off like a fucking comedy scene.
Yeah.
Like it's what is it? It's almost like a Three Stooges sequence, because they make this cross with like duct tape, and it's like lighting up because they're blessing it. And then it like breaks apart, and he's like shit.
And that's when the doctor gets bit, and then the
doctor's getting chased, and like she falls, and then they're trying to get the cross together, and it's just played off like they're just a bunch of doofuses.
Yeah, and then they get the cross duct tape back together, and they start blessing it again. And in the process of them doing that, the doctor gets bit, and then
they get for a rabies shot.
So the mom gets killed. She gets turned into dust, and the doctor character's freaking out. She's like, "Oh wait, I have a thing in my bag. Get it." And the love interest character gets it and hands it to her, and she's like, "It's a rabies shot. Like it's meant for like animal bites and shit like that." And she injects herself with the rabies shot, and it works. It works. She's not a vampire, and this seemingly very important discovery in the movie is literally never brought up again.
Yeah, it's never brought up.
Never.
Or it's brought up
never
one
used-
other time.
That's right, but it's never used again.
It's not used or brought. There's.
It makes no fucking sense.
They literally discover a cure
For vampirism.
and they're just like, we're not going to tell or utilize this at all, or
Yeah.
you know, I don't know, do anything with this information to help people.
No. God, what happens next?
Oh, that's when the kid Harry Houdini's.
Oh yeah, so it cuts back to Glass's kid, and he's hung upside down and tied up. And I think literally like the same cards fall out of his pockets or some shit. And Stryker's like talking to him from down the hall, and he's walking to the room, and it like the camera pans. It's done in like one shot, which was I guess supposed to be cool, but it totally wasn't.
Yeah, so he gets out.
He there's like there's a shot of it pans over, and you see his shadow, and he falls. He releases himself from his bindings, and Stryker comes in, and the kid like hits him in the head as if with like a pipe or some shit. He hits him in the face as if he had like a golf club, and like kills him like instantly.
Yeah, like off screen.
Yeah,
blood splatters across the wall.
You don't even see him get killed, really. It's literally
you should have seen Patrick. He just like shoulders right. He's like, you don't even see him get killed.
It's such bullshit. you don't see him get killed. So then
you expected to see Earl Greyjoy in this movie be a cool side villain. He's in the movie for all of like 3 minutes total.
Yeah.
I swear to God, that's not even like
no. He's literally
an accurate number. That's not even like an over exaggeration.
It might be
only in the movie for 3. I swear to God, if you time it,
it might be less.
Yeah,
like legitimately,
it could be 3 minutes.
So then Glass's kid.
So the other.
Oh wait. Before any of that happened, way back at the scene with the morgue and shit, they agreed to go to the church. And
they meet the pastor.
Fast forward again. So those guys
are there.
They're there. They're talking to the priest, trying to convince him of this shit. He's reading like a comic book, and they're trying to convince him. And he talks about like he might be able to get the town on their side after explaining it because of his position in the community. And then Glass's kid, for no reason, just shows up at the church. Like a little exposition kid, and he just like knows everything. He knows how to do everything for no reason. Yeah. He walks over and he's like explaining. He says some shit, and he walks over.
They should have not given this kid lines of
no,
exposition.
he's not. He's a really bad actor. Unfortunately, it's just there's no way around saying it. He's a bad actor. I'm sorry. Maybe you'll get better as you get older, kid. in this movie. This wasn't your gig, okay?
Yeah, I don't think this was anybody's gig. No, to be fair,
it was nobody. Nobody in the making of this movie was this their gig. The kid walks over and he gets holy water in a water bottle, which he never uses ever throughout the rest of the movie. And they have like a dialogue scene what happens again? They
might have decided to go back to the house for something, because after this they go back to the house
again. We keep going back to this fucking house for like no reason.
So they might have some explanation. I don't know. I tuned out parts of this movie.
I did too. Certain moments it was like because it was confusing. It was like I can't even follow this properly.
They might have gone back to see like Burke, because the kid explains that he killed Stryker.
Yes, yeah, that's right. He did explain that.
They might have gone back because the kid does say that they got Burke.
Mm-hmm.
And so they might have done that to like prove to the priest.
That is what it is. They went up there to prove to the priest that what they were talking about was legit. Okay. That's why they went back up there.
So they go in the basement
and they show them Burke
and they kill Burke.
That's right. In that sequence from before he gets turned into a vampire, they kill him, then the priest sees what's going on. So then that's a whole scene, but fuck it. We're skipping over it. That's what happens. It's so useless.
That's the breakdown of this. They go into the basement.
They kill again. Burke, which fucking sucked because he was one of the good characters in the movie, and he gets killed off like 3/4 of the way through, and it's bullshit. Yeah. And then the priest is convinced, and
Burke is a vampire.
Huh?
Do Burke as a vampire. God dang. I want to suck blood. I can't do
God dang it, I want to suck blood. I like blood and blood accessories.
This is odd.
So
Well, that's the end of the Hank Hill impression.
yeah,
Burke's no longer in this
Burke's
movie.
no longer in the movie.
He gets stabbed in the heart, as vampires do.
Yeah, and his hand gets burnt by sunlight for a second. So that all that happens.
Which I don't know why they would have needed to show us that.
They didn't. It was
if the characters already know they're vampires and they know they're all about the stakes through the heart. They already know all the rules.
Yeah.
They're like, oh look, sunlight hurts them. It's
exactly.
Like, okay, we don't. You're explaining this in the last 30 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. So then they have a little scene out front, which was dumb because they're basically it's like about to become it's like sunset, and they're like we need to
everybody back in the church.
Yeah, they're like, because the church is holy ground and like they won't go inside, so they're like, we need to try and get those who are still alive into the church.
So the kid,
and then Glass's kid is
wants
like
his parents.
He wants his parents, but then he also is like, "What? We shouldn't split up at this point." And the doctor, because that's what they're talking about doing, and the doctor character is like, "We have to split up because there's no fucking time because it's about to be sunset."
No time to get all the people. So
which was dumb. It was literally them like hand waving away that bit.
So I forgot how it broke down story wise in the order. So we'll just go how we feel like it. But the doctor's gonna go get the sheriff.
Oh, that scene's not even important. The sheriff character tries to split town, and that's it.
Overall,
yeah, sorry.
The doctor is gonna get the sheriff. The priest is gonna go with the kid to convince the parents that vampires are real, and then Ben and love interest are gonna go get love interest's mom.
Yes,
as you just explained.
Yeah.
The doctor going to get the sheriff.
It's a nothing scene.
Nothing scene.
It's literally just explained that he's trying to split town.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, bad things are happening, and I don't care.
And I'm leaving. Basically.
Yeah, he doesn't. The sheriff character has done nothing this entire movie.
No. He has done nothing. Then it cuts to.
Who do you want to cover for? It doesn't matter the order at this point.
Well, okay, so it cuts to them going to love interest's mom's character, and because of the dancing scene that was for 2 seconds happened earlier, it's basically set up that Stryker convinced the mom character to now that Stryker's dead, to be the new familiar for Barlow.
She's like, I've met a new person that'll take care of us.
And then she notices that Ben is there next to love interest, and immediately her tone is like, get the fuck away from my daughter, I don't want you here, kind of thing. And is that when she brought out the shotgun?
No,
that's later.
The vampire,
that's later at the end.
There's no. It's all in the same scene.
Oh, it is.
The vampire shows up and bites the love interest.
Yes.
I think he kills the vampire, or gets it off of her. And then
this is a random vampire, not vampire. The main one.
Yeah, just people have died
off screen.
Yeah,
there's also like
the whole at this point, and it's never shown or explained, but you learn, I guess. You don't really. You just have to
piece it together.
Yeah, that most of the town has turned at this point.
And they imply this because there's like shots throughout the movie of like essentially the deterioration of the town and it becoming more bleak and desolate.
Anything or acknowledges it at any point.
Never.
At any point
never.
In this.
Never.
Are they like, oh man, there's people going missing? Or like, why is the town like this now?
No.
They don't even acknowledge till later. They're like, oh wow, all the cars are gone.
yeah. And that comes into play later, actually.
Yeah, but...
and one of the only other cool scenes in the movie.
So he grabs the love interest and runs out with her.
And she's like being turned into the vampire as they're going to the church.
And then that's when the mom grabs the shotgun and she's like, get away from my daughter!
Yeah.
As they're running out.
Other scene that happens now is with Glass's kid's parents, and the priest is trying to convince the parents.
God. So they're at the
and
dinner
this is the only
table.
scene with his parents, which was weird.
Yeah. So it really doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And the parents
Parents don't believe that there's vampires, and they're like, "Oh, somebody is gonna show up, or the sheriff is gonna show." He says somebody,
Yeah.
and there's a knock at the door, and then the dad goes out and doesn't show back up, and then the cross starts to light, and so he's like, "Oh, the vampires are here,"
And
and
then
so
all of a
so they
sudden,
all get up out of the table, and all of it, yeah. So yeah,
and we discussed this in our break, that it makes no sense that this happens. All of a sudden,
no, I mentioned this during the movie too.
Barlow himself shows up inside the house.
Yeah.
Being inside the house is an
He
important
pops up behind the mom and kills the mom.
because but in vampire lore, which is within the movie, vampires, in order to enter buildings like homes specifically, have to be invited in. But Barlow just is in the house all of a sudden, and he
Which
kills.
is never utilized later or before.
No. So he shows up in the house and kills the mom.
Yeah, he's just in the house behind the mom, and he kills the mom.
And then the priest basically says to Glass's kid, like, run to the church kind of thing. The priest holds up the cross to Barlow, and it's glowing. And there's this...
Which, if he was able to do that, why did he need Stryker to get people for him?
I know. It doesn't make any sense.
To, like start turning. If he could just go into people's houses and turn them. He could have done this shit all in one night.
Yes.
He could have literally gotten house to house while everybody was sleeping.
I mean, my brain's having like an aneurysm with this fucking movie.
No, so Barlow's just in the fucking house.
Barlow's in the house.
The priest,
Glass's kid runs out.
Yeah,
the priest holds up the cross to Barlow, and it's glowing. And apparently, by the Barlow makes a comment of like some dialogue happens, and Barlow basically says to the priest,
what everybody else in this movie, the priest doesn't have enough character development at any point.
For what happens to make sense.
Shows up way later in the movie than he should have to have it make sense or for us to care. But he's an alcoholic and all this other stuff. And so there's no like payoff to this or really any reasoning for it to matter. But the light goes out.
Barlow basically makes a comment about the reason why the light goes out. Barlow makes a comment about like, oh, you know, men of faith, you've lost your faith or whatever, and that's the reason why Barlow can now kill him, because the cross went out, and so like the cross isn't blessed anymore, and he kills the priest.
Yeah, so the priest is just dead because.
Yet another like kind of interesting character. He was a nothing character, but he was like a more interesting character. Yeah, all the interesting characters fucking died.
Yeah, well, the reason why is because the priest had a pretty good like little set of, I won't even call it a monologue, but a little good set of lines when they first show up to try to convince him.
Yeah,
in the church, and he's talking about
like before Glass's kid.
Yeah, when he's talking about like being an alcoholic and his fucking handshaking and stuff, and I thought that was, I mean, it set him up to be more interesting than he turned out to be at all.
Yeah,
like having any sort of like
character development.
Yeah, or I don't even
anything.
Know. Yeah,
frankly. So then
the kid goes to his little treehouse clubhouse and he locks down the doors and none of the vampires can get in.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of vampires, and as you said, all was it Fright Night? Like, why didn't the vampire? Because obviously it's like, oh, he's in a treehouse, and I guess that's the logic. They can't
get in.
The logic in this movie is so fucking inconsistent.
So they can't get in.
They can't get in. I guess it's not explained, but I guess because they're not invited. And as you said, they're like, why don't they just cut down the fucking tree?
I was like, there's a tree. Cut down the tree.
They don't do that. He stays
also,
in there.
Barlow can just go into places.
Exactly. But the point is, they don't get him in the treehouse for
I also
no
made the
reason.
Joke. I thought it would have been fucking hilarious. Because I think it's all the kid vampires on the treehouse.
Yeah, it is.
And so when he like looks out the window, it's like one of his friends.
Yeah.
I would, if he turned like one way, and if it was the neat kid and he had the harmonica in his mouth and he was like, I thought that would have been fucking phenomenal.
That would have been hilarious.
This movie would have won so many points for me.
Yeah. It didn't happen.
Oh God, we just need that.
So Glass's kid is stuck in his treehouse. Cut to main character, doctor, and main character Ben, and love interest who's being turned into a vampire.
All get
because
into the
they
church.
get into the church, and
She's turning into a vampire, and he's
Ben
like, "Give me the rabies shot."
And the doctor's like, "It won't work. She's too far gone," which makes no sense.
Like, how would she know?
Exactly.
How would she know? You just discovered that rabies shots can stop vampirism. So it's like, would it work if it's turning her?
If it worked once,
why wouldn't turn super quickly compared to like everybody? Everybody else like dies first, and then comes back. She like immediately turns into a vampire.
Yeah, she turns into a vampire in the church, so she has to like run out of the church.
Yeah,
and Ben chases after her for. Yeah. It's really no reason, but it's basically like, oh, I love her.
I want to stick on the doctor real quick.
Oh, yeah.
From this, it just annoyed the shit out of me that she was just immediately like, Ben's on the floor. He's just like, give me the shot. And she just refuses
to do it.
To give him the shot for any fucking reason.
It made
She's
no
just
sense.
like, it's too far gone.
Yeah.
And he's like, how do you know that?
They don't. That's why it's stupid.
Just like, give him the fucking shot and see if it works.
Yeah, I know. So then Ben runs out, and he's outside of the church now.
Then we get the cool trailer shot,
which wasn't as cool in the movie because there's some added sound effects of them coming. Again. It would have been okay. What happens is he comes out of the church, and it's like a panning shot essentially. And in the trailer, basically what happens is like it pans over and looks to him, and he's like looking out at the town. There's nobody there. And it pans over because the doctor's like, Ben, get back in the church. And it pans over and looks at her. And then what's supposed to happen in the trailer is he looks back over to his left, and the camera pans with him, and they're just there. But in the movie, before it pans over, you hear just little like things happen.
You hear them all land.
And it's
so it kind of ruins
it.
The moment of like,
it's not as
you're
not
like,
as
oh,
cool.
They're there.
Yeah.
They're going to be there.
Yeah. So then,
rather than him turning and they're just there.
So then he runs over back to the church, and a funny scene happens because he gets yeeted up by one of them right as he's about to get into the entrance.
Two things happen in succession to each other, which makes this hilarious. So right before he gets yeeted, the doctor throws him a steak. And this is all done in like one shot. It just holds a static shot. Throws him the steak. He gets yeeted up. And then you hear him get stabbed. And then you just hear them both falling. And then it just hits the ground and just go.
Yeah. It's practically like a comedy sound.
Oh, yeah.
You might as well have added like a boing in there or something like that.
He stabbed the vampire and it just lands on him. But it just. Oh, it's so fucking stupid. Anyway, then they get back. It's so fucking dumb.
It's so dumb.
And it leads into even dumber scene.
You should have seen such as like, oh god, this movie. So then
they get back in the church,
and they stay,
and they all
hurt. Stay the night.
No. You miss so much. I can tell by your face.
You just want to talk about what happens.
I don't. Yeah.
Can we really just skip it?
No.
Oh my god. Okay.
We're never taking breaks again. Your energy. You're just like you turned into a grumpy old man in between that break.
Okay. Continue. Just yes. Go on.
They both are hurt, and he's like, "What about the sheriff?" And the sheriff gets thrown through.
He gets yeeted through the.
He's dead. He got his throat ripped out, and he gets yeeted through the window of the church, and he's dead.
Yeah.
And it like does a zoom in on the doctor, and she goes, "He wasn't any help, anyways." Like it's some fucking one-liner.
Yeah.
Like everybody in town's not dead. This dude's girlfriend isn't, now a vampire. Like it's some winner fucking one-liner.
Yeah.
Like it was just so fucking stupid.
It was so dumb.
That's just gonna be the last half of this. Is we're just gonna after every sentence we're just gonna be like it's so dumb. It's so dumb.
Isn't that after that happens? Isn't that when it cuts to
the next day?
Yeah.
So they go looking for the kid. He's not at the treehouse, but he left a note. The kid goes to the antique store to look for Barlow.
And instead of Barlow, he finds the kid from earlier that went into his home, that he hit in the face with a cross. His friend tries attacking him, and he stabs him through the heart, and he has like a set up payoff line where he tells the kid like I would finish the job or something like that, or like I told you I'd finish this, Danny, and Danny like
I'd set
the
you
lights
free.
go,
He says something about setting him free.
yeah, the lights go out in Danny's eyes and he dies, and then don't they meet him at the shop?
He leaves the shop and then they pull up in the car, and that's when they decipher that all the cars are missing.
Yes.
And so they go.
And then they realize they're like, well, there's only one place they could all be.
Yeah, so then they
which
go
is
into the
drive-through. Or drive-through. Sorry.
The drive-through. They all there's a really long.
They all got cheeseburgers.
That sounds like every time I pass the fucking In-N-Out down 281, dude. Jesus Christ, the fucking line.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. So they're going to the drive-in now. Sorry. Immediately.
Can you sound any more
I want to
just bored?
I want.
No, we're keeping that in there. Oh my god, dude, that was.
I want to redo that so badly, but I can't.
We're keeping
They're
it.
They're going to the drive-in. I can't laugh. It makes my back hurt. Oh my god. They're going to the drive-in because they realize that that's the only logical place for them to be. But the thing is, it's still daylight outside. Even for some reason the sun is setting again, even though it doesn't make sense. The sun is like about to set again, but it's still daytime. And they realize that the only like they didn't just up and leave the town. They had to be somewhere. So they go to the drive-in and all the fucking cars are there. And they realize that they all have to be in like the trunks of their cars.
Mm-hmm.
Like essentially as if even like the doctor character even has a line where he's like, they're in their coffins or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
The cars are their coffins that they sleep in during the day, basically.
Yeah.
So they're, Ben, main character, he goes and finds love interest's car and opens the trunk, and it's in shadow so she doesn't like burn immediately, but he opens it slowly and she's in there sleeping, and
he can't do it.
Yeah, they're supposed to kill her and he doesn't want to.
So doctor takes the stake, and then right before she stabs love interest,
she gets fucking blown away by the mom character
oh
from
my
earlier.
God, it is such a shock.
Like literally blown away.
Shotgun blast.
It was like, you know what?
Such unceremonious.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of that scene in Django Unchained when he's just like, what does he say? Bye, Miss whatever. Just
Daisy or something?
Yeah, bye, Miss Daisy.
Oh, yeah. She just gets yeeted.
Yeah,
dude.
Yeeted out of the scene.
It's just like, it's so out of left field. And I think they were going for like a shock value death, but it's
hilarious.
Fucking funny.
Because it immediately cuts to her and it cuts to the mom. And the first thing she says, get away from my daughter.
And she has a hat now, so you know she's completed her villain arc.
Yeah, she has a hat. Like, because the other,
oh, God.
What was his fucking name? The other familiar.
I just call him Earl Greyjoy.
Yeah,
Stryker.
Stryker. Earl Greyjoy also had a hat during certain portions of the movie. So now she has a hat and she has a shotgun. So she blows Doctor character away, and they don't have a moment with her death or anything. The second she gets shot and blown away,
she's out of the movie.
She never.
They don't acknowledge that she ever died.
Again. Yeah, they don't.
They don't acknowledge that she was killed. Or that she died, or even like at the end, they're like, "Oh man, she did a lot for." She's just dead and it's gone. She's out of the movie.
Yeah. So there's like a also, as this is happening, the sun begins to set.
Yeah. But stops setting right behind the movie screen.
Yeah, and there was
for the action.
And there was like a very explicit shot before any of this happened, where it's just the movie screen to kind of set up the fact of what they're going to do in order to kill them. But we'll get there in a second.
Yeah.
But
what's coming up next is
it's the number two.
The number two good scene from this movie. Thank God. The penultimate showdown sort of, not the real showdown, the actual showdown's stupid and sucked.
Yeah.
It's dumb and I didn't like it.
Yeah. This was
But
actually
this
cool.
sequence was cool.
And it made sense, actually.
So basically, they're in the sun is setting and it goes behind the movie screen.
Yeah.
And so Ben is trying to run towards the edge of where the shadow cuts off because all the vampires are popping out of the trunks and like chasing him. And
Yeah.
he's trying to lead them away from Glass's kids, all while the mom is crazy and
Shooting
yelling
at them.
and shooting at them. Just complete. Oh God, she's so good at this last section of the movie. It's so funny. She's so funny. Saving grace of it.
Yeah. It's hilarious. She's literally hilarious.
Oh yeah. And then and so he's like fighting him off, and then the kid gets in the car. Oh yeah, so he's like getting tackled, like full on getting tackled by a ton of vampires. The kid ends up stealing one of the cars and then runs it underneath.
He like rams the wooden structural support
Of the
thing that's holding up the screen. Yeah. So the screen then falls and the sunlight casts onto all of them and they all literally begin burning to death.
Yeah.
And oh wait, never mind. Sorry.
No, yeah, they all just begin
burning. that does, sorry, that does happen. Something that doesn't matter. That happens.
And it falls.
Yeah.
And then the mom still chases Ben through the cars, and then he goes to hide behind another car.
And then very abruptly, Glass's kid annihilates her with the car.
Again,
very
abruptly.
Very abruptly.
Wicker Man.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. As I said, it reminded me of that scene in Dumb and Dumber 2 where what's his face gets hit by the train all of a sudden. It's so abrupt. It's hilarious. It's a hilarious death to her character.
Just oh my God, it's so funny.
So then, then they realize that they must, for some reason, all of these vampire characters had dragged Barlow in a bigger van, him in his coffin in a bigger van. So they get the coffin out of the van and are trying to open it before the sun sets, so that there's still sunlight so they can kill him, but they don't get it in time, so that doesn't work. So he does get out of his coffin, but he doesn't start immediately getting them because
we talked about, just real quick, I don't know if we talked about his design specifically, but both me and you talked about how it's decent, but it was like something off about it, where they try to go for the old school kind of like Nosferatu look, but there's
didn't
been
really
so many
work that well.
Good designs and takes on it in the past couple, even with like
it was just kind of boring.
Recently
unfortunately,
with was it The Voyage of the Demeter and other
The Voyage of the Demeter, or whatever whatever that movie is called.
That it just kind of looked, and I was like,
it looked fine.
Like you said, it kind of reminded me of the human hybrid from Romulus,
where it's just a dude named Greg.
It's a dude named Greg. Really?
Yeah.
Anyways, just
but so he comes out of his coffin. Oh wait, yeah. So he doesn't like immediate. Wait a minute.
No. They run inside the box office.
Wait. So they hold on. What happens is he comes out of his coffin, and then Ben and Glass's kid get split up because Ben's love interest as a vampire, she didn't get burnt up with the rest of them, so she starts chasing him. And Barlow begins chasing Glass's kid. But what happens in order first is we get a scene between Ben and love interest character, and they go into like the concessions area of the drive-in.
Yeah.
and there's a little fight sequence, and we were actually glad that this happened where he actually does like kill her. We
Yeah.
were glad they had the balls to do it, and it wasn't a you were like, I'm gonna be real upset if it's a thing where they kill Barlow and she turns back into a human. I'm gonna be so fucking
I
upset.
was like,
And
they just committed mass murder.
yeah,
They're
it would
terrorists.
make it would make everything that happened in the movie unbelievably
Pointless.
pointless. Yeah.
They should have just went for Barlow the entire time.
But thankfully they didn't do that.
They were just like, yeah, we got to kill her.
Yeah.
And so she gets stabbed
does.
in the heart, and then she has a little moment where she cries, but no one cares.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a thing
because she wanted to get out of the town,
and she never did. She died
because
in
that's
the
what
town.
the exposition told us.
Yeah, it was supposed to be an emotional moment, and it was not at all. It just was like, and she's dead. Really, that's what happened.
Yeah.
But so then it cuts to
Barlow's chasing. Kid.
Yeah, and this was actually kind of cool. It was kind of cool. It wasn't really that cool. The only Barlow's chasing Glasses Kid, and Glasses Kid like he's like hiding underneath
the fallen
screen, and Barlow like bursts through the top,
just
and
his
like
face.
Yeah, just his face, and he like has his mouth open as if he's gonna bite Glasses Kid, and Ben takes a stake and stabs it through his head, through his mouth, and he pulls it back out of his head, and the camera, that happening was cool.
Yeah.
And then the camera's like under, it's like looking up at Barlow's face, and when he pulls the stake out of his head,
the hole left in his mouth is like framing his face.
Yeah, it's framing Ben's face. So then Barlow like falls backward, and Ben stabs Barlow in the heart, and he dies. And it was a very unsatisfying death.
All the deaths in this movie are unsatisfying,
but especially for like the main villain, it was just like, and he's dead.
Is he really they don't really do anything with him until the last like 20 minutes.
Yeah, it just was disappointing. He's really
in the dark most of the time, but not in like a cool way. Like he doesn't do anything. It's not like a creepy.
He just like kills some people. He kills like all the like important people. He kills some kids. He kills,
but he gets other people to do it for him.
He kills like the two most important. Sorry, not important. The two most interesting characters in the movie.
Yeah, but they show up to his house.
Correct.
He never does anything that's like menacing,
worthwhile. Yeah, really,
but nothing that sets him up as like a menacing. Creature.
His peons that turn into vampires do more shit that's like that.
Oh man,
he does.
I should be scared of that main villain because that's scary because he's set up to be a big bad when he just looks different.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's bald.
Yeah, because he's bald. So then, this is basically when the movie actually starts wrapping up. So pretty much the only two survivors are Ben and Glasses Kid. And they have a moment where they're in a car. It's at night. And they put on, what was that song that played at the beginning that comes back and plays again? Do you remember what it was called? This is
Sundown by...
it was Sundown.
I actually like the song.
Yeah, it was a good song. There was a couple of good song choices in this movie.
They had Hurdy-Gurdy Man. It's Sundown by Gordon Lightfoot.
Yeah, so
which is actually pretty good song.
Yeah, so that
a decent song choices.
Yeah, it was. So that song played at the very beginning of the movie when Ben was first entering
the town,
and now as
he's leaving.
So they're both like leaving the town now as the
child he is now kidnapped.
Pretty much. Well, I mean, he doesn't even
That's the story arc, is the bad guys kidnap children to kill them, and Ben now has kidnapped a child to save him.
Yes. I guess. And they drive off into the night.
He says some bullshit about the Harry Houdini thing.
Yeah.
But Ben
what did he say? It was such bullshit.
It's like we make our getaway or we disappear or something. Like he's like, what do we do now? And then Ben responds with like, we do like Harry Houdini and get away. I don't. It doesn't matter because.
But I remember I commented though that didn't make any sense for him to say that though
because he was never in any of the Houdini shit.
Yeah, he was never in any scene at all where he was around this kid when he talked about that.
Yeah.
So it was like the writers were like, set up and payoff, and it's like, no,
that
that's
didn't
bad
happen.
writing. He was never in the same room at all. And then the movie and you're left sitting there like, what the fuck did I just watch? Like this, like the last 2 hours were so like nonsensical. And there was like literally a couple good moments in the entire thing.
It's not worth the whole movie.
No.
The best,
I would not recommend people watch this unless you're watching it with friends to like kind of hate watch it, honestly.
Yeah, no,
it's really not worth watching.
The best I will give this movie is that exactly that. If you're there, if you got a couple friends over and you want some silly shit to poke fun at, put it on. There's other better movies to put on to poke fun at.
Way better.
Like Abominable. Definitely put that on if you've never seen it. It's literally Rear Window, but with Bigfoot and college girls. I'm dead.
No, I believe it.
And a guy in a wheelchair. It does have a guy in a wheelchair spying on college girls on their vacation, and then Bigfoot picks them off one by one. It's a shitty ass movie, but it's so much fun.
I honestly would rather watch that than having watched this movie, to be blatantly honest. Because like, it's not like I completely hated watching this movie, because it was fun watching it with you because there were multiple moments in the movie
where we paused because we were laughing or rewound.
We were laughing because we didn't make
silly ass shit
because we literally had to be like consult one another. We're like, did that? What's going on? Like, did that just happen that way? Why did this character do this?
We're just laughing at some of the sound effect choices and noises and dialogue. Just all of it was.
I will say one positive thing: there weren't any like blatantly bad like CG effects or anything in the movie. A lot of it seemed to be done practically, or
I will give it that too.
If it wasn't done,
I will agree. Yeah,
if it wasn't done practically, completely, like with some of the blood, at least it like didn't come off as like CG blood or like tracked in 2D cards in After Effects. It never came across that way. But the fact of the matter is, there wasn't like there wasn't really a ton of like actual violence. Well, okay, besides her getting shot and her getting run over, the other character getting run over and shit, like that was violent. But there wasn't a ton of like over the top gore moments or anything like that.
Even that wasn't that like bad.
No, it felt weirdly
like a vampire movie.
It felt weirdly kind of PG-13, even though there's like cursing and blood. It didn't feel.
Did they even cuss that much?
They cut a couple times. Well, yeah, in the beginning, yeah, they did, because the bully kid is like, whatever. He says fuck, and then I know the doctor character says fuck a couple times and whatnot.
Yeah.
There's cursing.
Thinking about it, I feel like this could have easily been a PG-13 movie.
Yeah, very easily.
You could have like dubbed over some of the fucks.
Another thing too is that this movie wasn't directed by James Wan, but it was produced by James Wan.
Yeah, the Atomic Monster.
Yeah, and it definitely feels, you can feel his like influence over a lot of the movie.
Like the housing, the house.
Yeah, and the
he
way
always
like
has that like old school horror movie house feel to it.
And the way like certain scenes were like lit and whatnot, it just felt like I was watching like The Conjuring or something like that. A little bit. Well, no, yeah, it felt like I was watching The Conjuring or something like that. And in certain moments, like visually, it worked in the favor of the movie. But overall, it was just kind of like, okay. Like visually, it was actually, I actually pointed this out multiple times while watching the movie, that there were all of a sudden the color grading got really shitty all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It turned into like for most of the movie it like looked fine, but all of a sudden it had this like weird like it wasn't even like red. It was like maroon just like cast over everything all of a sudden, and it looked so just like dog shit. And it happened like randomly throughout the movie, and it was like, what happened to the color in this movie all of a sudden? Did y'all like fuck up the camera settings or something? Like it just looked off, because like there were multiple moments where like it actually looked really good, weirdly. But
like I said, the two sequences that actually worked really well, like, and it made sense, and like were proper sequences that worked. And I don't know who they had on their set that day that was helping them guide them along, but they needed to be there the whole time.
Yeah. Oh, frankly, it may have been James Wan.
Yeah, probably.
It may actually have been him, because it was the
I
only
definitely
like
believe for the cross scene.
For sure,
could definitely see that.
That was the most
been...
James Wan scene in the whole movie.
Oh yeah, for sure.
In like a good way, because there's bad James Wan. This was like good James Wan moment. I honestly don't know if I have anything else to say about it at this point. We kind of went over everything, I think, at this point.
I think
I would literally only recommend this as like a fun party hate watch movie.
Yeah.
I would not recommend this at all as like a series. This is not.
Watch it with some friends, have a few laughs,
and then move on with your life.
Just, you don't have to watch it ever again.
Never again, because it's really. It's not even that fun. It's not even like a so bad it's good movie. It never really fully goes. It's not like watching a Neil Breen movie or something like that.
Yeah.
It's never like that bad. It's just one of the most confusing movies I've watched in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
If you couldn't tell by the fact of like how at certain moments I've like dreaded talking about this movie on this podcast.
How you just like shut down halfway. You're like, okay.
Yeah, because I'm just, in particular, when we took our break, we were like kind of getting what happened straight in our minds, and it was so confusing to have to like think about it.
We were like remembering things that didn't make sense on top of other things that we were like thinking back on, like, why did this happen like this, or why? And
the answer most of the time was it literally doesn't make sense. Like there's so many illogical story moments
because the script says it does.
Exactly. It's like it has to happen this way.
What it breaks down to.
And it's really a shame, honestly, I think, because I haven't seen or read like the other versions of this, because this is based off of a Stephen King book, and apparently it's one of the more popular works of his.
Yeah.
And I just felt like so much shit was skipped over.
Yeah.
And everything that happened was so utterly illogical that it made it like not worth watching. Except to talk about it for content. Quite frankly.
With that, I'm Sim.
I'm Patrick.
And we're Wizard Core.
Thank fucking God.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, God. It's over.